What's up, guys? Welcome to the Jared Williams Show. My name is Jared. I grew my plumbing business to $5 million a year, $1 million a year in profit. Just sold it for $5 million, which is what we're going to be talking about on the show. How in the hell we did that. This is Joel, my not so good looking counterpart.
Trying my best here, guys. I'm trying my best.
And today we're going to cover a bunch of cool stuff. This is kind of part two to the last episode that we recorded. Going to give you guys a little more information on how to sell your business and what that looks like and how to plan for it.
Yeah.
But first, what's up, Joel?
Jared, what's up, man? This is
It's good.
it's Wednesday.
I don't know if you
Podcasting.
noticed. Don't know if you noticed, but I don't have a Vans t-shirt on right now.
Yeah, this is kind of strange.
Yeah.
What's going on here? You sell your company, you're not wearing Vans anymore.
I
Are
still
you
have- I
even
got a Vans
Jared?
hat. Do I got a Vans hat on?
Yeah, you
I
do.
I got another hat. This one right here.
Oh, dang.
I
Is
got-
that from the same company that your shirt is?
This is from 3 to 7 Project.
Yeah.
It's a YouTube channel.
Do you like the hat?
No,
Yeah, it's another thing. Yeah, because
it's not big enough.
Oh yeah, it is kind of. Yeah, it is
Makes
not
my
big
head
enough.
look small.
Yeah, that's a weird hat on you.
Yeah.
That hat would like work for my head.
It would.
'Cause I'm a small
I was
hat.
gonna give it to you.
Yeah, I'll take it because I'm a small hat guy.
There you go.
Boom. Here.
Boom. Free hat, dude.
Dude, the perks of working here is just. Does that look good?
Yeah, that looks
does
like
work.
looks like a Joel hat.
Yeah, it looks like a Joel hat. My wife, she said she cut my hair and she's like, I think I left it with a hat on, and she's like, hey, quit wearing your stupid hats and comb your hair.
Oh no.
And I was like,
Tell her no way. That's too hard.
sometimes it is.
So I just got a haircut and he gave me like the hard part. And you have to put gunk in your hair and style it.
I can't do that. It's like the worst.
Uh-uh.
I just don't have the patience for it.
No. So now I just forget it.
Yeah, you just wear a hat. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. The beauty of having like really long hair is if you just put it in a ponytail,
Oh yeah.
good to go.
Yeah, that's the best.
I know. That's like the biggest argument to grow your hair out long is eventually you can put it in a ponytail and you don't have to care about nothing.
Yeah.
It just takes a while.
Yep.
No, I'm doing
So-
good. It's Wednesday. It's super rainy out.
It is.
Oh, hey, big news, everybody. This is going to be exciting for all the listeners. I know they care about these things. My big toenail fell off.
It finally fell
It
off.
fell off today. Yeah. So all you who are waiting with bated
You're
breath.
You've entered the club.
I've entered the club.
Lost a toenail.
Yeah. Lost one. I brought it inside, and you know what's ridiculous here? Nobody wanted to see it. Nobody.
Was it black?
Nah, it was green. Like had some. It was interesting. Had some different colors to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. The family didn't want to look at it. They were grossed out, as they said.
Yeah.
Bunch of wussies.
Dude, I'd be proud.
I told my wife I'm gonna drill a hole through it and wear a necklace.
So there's this race that I always wanted to run. It was on my bucket list. It's slowly disappearing off my bucket
As
list.
you get older, and you're like, running's hard.
Not that it's hard. It's just like I don't know that I want to take the time
Yeah.
to do it to accomplish the thing. The thing isn't as important anymore.
Running
you
really
know?
far takes a lot of training.
Yeah. So anyway, there's this race. It's 137 miles through Death Valley in the middle of the summer when it's
Why didn't you train for
super,
that?
super hot.
You just go for it.
Yeah, just go for
Easy.
it. Anyway, there's a guy that has, well, maybe like 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. At the time, he had ran it every single year since the inception. And he continued to run it every single year. And
Jeez.
he would train so much for the race that his toenails just wouldn't survive. And so he just went and got his nail beds removed in his toes.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
It's just like, screw it. I don't need to deal with this.
Yeah. And I remember reading that and I was like, no freaking way. And it was like a normal thing back then for ultra runners to lose their toenails.
Yeah.
It was before we really started getting shoes that were made for ultra running
Yeah.
because it wasn't quite popular enough.
Yeah.
And I went and did a race in Texas called the Bandera 100K. And the trail it just has tons of these big rocks. And you're running at night and you're tired.
Sure, of course.
And you just stub your toe like nonstop. And I lost 3 toenails after that race.
Holy crap.
And it was like a badge of honor.
Yeah, you're like, I got 3 down.
Yeah, like I entered the club.
Yeah.
So,
Well-
welcome to the club.
Yeah. And I mean, really, it was just because of the one time we did a 6-hour run and I was wearing shoes that were too small.
Yep.
Brand new shoes, threw them on, they were too small, and that decimated my toes.
Yeah.
Other than that, like my shoes that I wear now are fine, and I don't even feel like pressure on my toes at all.
So, but the good news is that now, during the race, which is what, next month?
It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's almost next month at the time of this recording, so it's in like 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
coming
the
up
good
real
news is
fast.
you don't have to worry about your toenail during the race.
Nope, not that one. I got this other one that's kind of, this one looks like it's going to fall off, but I don't think it will.
It's gonna kind of grow back a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be like half grown back.
Yeah. And then I'll just destroy it. And I'll be like, come on.
No, it's really weird losing a toenail because
It's very strange.
it makes you wonder why you have toenails.
Actually, that's what I kind of thought. I was like, what is the, like, why is my body focused on growing this back? Like, am I like,
Why?
like, it's my body, I guess, maybe expecting me to be walking barefoot and I need a little bit of protection on the tops of my toes specifically. Yeah. So yeah, doing really good.
For what? I don't know.
I don't know. Self-defense. You know,
You grow your toenails long, sharpen them up.
Dude. Gross. That sounds like something my kids would want to do. Dad, can I get claws on my toes and my hands?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Don't tell me your kids don't talk like that.
They all talk like that. Come on, Dad. Let's go outside and play basketball.
I'm gonna build you a paddle.
Yeah, with all my kids' names on
It's
it.
gonna be if you talk like your dad does.
If you do any of
This
these
paddle.
things that your dad does, I'm gonna come spank you. That's what it's gonna be. Yeah.
We should do that.
Yeah.
Just send your kids over to my house.
You'd be like, sorry. Yeah, whatever. You'd be like, oh, you're here? Yeah, tell your dad I spanked you, but you want to watch TV and eat ice cream while you're here? And they'd be like, yeah, we'll keep it on the low down.
Yep.
I'd be like, why are my kids so fat and chubby now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Dude, kids are fat and chubby these days.
A lot of people are unfortunately fat and chubby these days. If you just look around, it's like kind of sad.
No, it's super sad.
Yeah. It
It's-
seems like it's completely avoidable.
That's
the thing that's sad.
It's 100% avoidable.
Yeah.
What's weird is people don't even know. I remember when I was an apprentice, there was these two twins that got into the apprenticeship. One of the twins was in my class. They split us up in classes every year. They'd let in a new group, and you'd be in that class, right? And her twin sister got in the next year. Both bigger people. And I was sitting in the break room, and she's got 2 Dr. Peppers, and she's got a giant bag of Rolos. She doesn't even have to. Maybe she's unwrapping them one by one, but it seemed like she was just dipping her hand in
your
there.
memory.
Just,
That's how it was. Yeah.
And she's sitting there. I'm sitting across from her like this, watching her eat this. And she goes, I've just come to accept the fact that I'm fat. It's just how it is. And I was like, oh, wait, what?
You're like,
You sure it doesn't have anything to do with the Dr. Pepper and Rolos for breakfast?
yeah, and the downstream consequences of that are like really hard. Like
Very
the
hard.
The 10-year consequences, like, holy crap, this is a hard thing. Like talking about like, if you're growing a business is already hard enough. So if you want to grow a business and you're already like fighting all these health things because
Oh, yeah.
you just didn't live a good life up to that point, like, man, that's all, now it's just unnecessarily hard.
I've seen so many business owners start their business, neglect their health, do well in business, but then not enjoy any of the benefits because they had a heart attack or a stroke or they died before they even sold their business, or they had to sell their business because of their health problems. And then I've also seen, like, on the other end, they're divorced, their kids hate them.
Sure.
It's like, what was the point?
Yeah. Except to escape like yourself or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
dumb.
very strange, but
Like the whole point of owning a business is to make your life better. That's it. And you do that with money.
Yeah. And it's like, it's sort of like, it's a part of making your life better because the money is helpful. But like, if you're like really rich, but you're like fat and unhappy and your wife hates you, I'd be like, dude, you're probably focused on the wrong stuff.
But here's the thing. If you're really rich and you're fat and unhappy and your wife hates you, you're a complete idiot because you have zero excuse. Like you have money to buy the time back. You have money to buy the food. You have money to pay for knowledge. You could hire personal trainers. You could
hire marriage counselors. You could like doing a whole bunch of work. You go to cry retreats, whatever you got, whatever you need. You know, go yell at the trees or something.
You literally have no excuse if you have the money. That's the weird part.
Yeah, you just don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Okay, let's talk about selling a business, dude.
Yeah, it seems like a cool thing.
Yeah. If you didn't listen to last episode, I just sold my business for $5 million, and we kind of talked about how we got to the point of selling and what we did to get there. So if you're interested in that, like kind of the first half of the story, go back and listen to it. But in this one, we're kind of going to go a little more into the details.
Yeah, try to be a little bit more specific about
Yeah.
the experience, especially because it's pretty fresh on your mind.
It is.
I think there's
very fresh on my mind.
Yes. Yeah.
There were a lot of, things I did well and things that I could have done better on. I learned a lot. It was cool.
Let's start with, like, what made you want to sell your business?
So I think we covered this a little bit in the last podcast, but
And I guess what I'm thinking about specifically is like, because there's a moment of either do I hold this or do I sell it?
yeah.
And something pushed you. And I guess there's two questions here. There is what pushed you to sell it, and then why was now the right time to sell it?
It's a good question. You're a good questioner.
Thanks, man. I'm gonna be a questioner.
So,
grow up.
I could have just had that business. It could have continued to probably do really well for a very long time and probably make me a lot of money for a long time. And I could have just stopped.
Sure. Oh, sure.
But I'm not that kind of person. I'd be bored. Like I got to do something, right?
My wife commonly says, Jared just starts businesses because he gets bored.
Yeah, I do.
It's like, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're just
I'm
like,
bored.
well, even when you moved here, it's kind of like you moved here and then you're like, well, I moved to Florida. Plumbing business is doing well.
I could have done nothing else.
Yeah, you essentially like won
Yeah.
the game of having enough money and doing whatever you want.
Yeah. Yes.
But then you're
it's
like, I'm got bored. I might as well start a business.
this is boring. And so, and what I've learned about myself. So what's funny, this whole process of starting a business, growing a business, making more money, selling a business, you just learn a lot about yourself. So I've learned a lot about like what makes me happy, what makes me tick, what I think my purpose is in life, what I enjoy, those kinds of things. So I really, and what I'm good at, which isn't a whole lot, but what makes me happy, what I enjoy doing, I love. One of the things I like doing a few other things, but one of the things I like doing is I always have, is I like building things. I like creating, right? So like when I was a kid, I would tear apart everything. If it had screws and parts and pieces, I tore it apart because I wanted to see what made it tick and I wanted to put it back together. And I was the kid that was like grabbing my dad's nail gun and skill saw and collecting scrap wood and building tree forts.
Sure.
I was the one that was out there building jumps and like I was always using my energy to create. I just loved it, right? And when I became an adult, I used to draw quite a bit. Halfway decent drawer. I could still sit down and like paint a picture and it would be enjoyable.
Yeah.
For a little bit.
It's kind of funny to think of you like sitting in the garage painting a picture.
You've seen my pictures. They're really
I've also
good.
seen your sculptures too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah, they have a certain likeness that is common, we could say.
Yeah. Similar to, what is that movie?
I don't know. I have no
Dang
idea what movie.
Well, I'm going to think of it.
I hope so.
Okay. And so it was only natural. Like I became an adult. I kind of stopped creating at a point because you get responsibilities of life. You got to take care of kids. You got to go to work. You got to exercise. You got, just all these responsibilities. And that need that I had to like create things and build things kind of went away for a while. And then when I started building the business again, it was like, oh, this is cool. It's like your own way of building and creating.
Yeah, it's like building like 2.0.
Right. It's like building 2.0. So I love to build, I love to create. So when I had a business up in Alaska and it was like built, well, now I want to build something else.
Sure.
And so just looking at, where my best opportunities are, it just made sense to sell that, get the cash and reinvest into something else that I can build.
Yeah.
And that's it.
We should talk about, I think this is we've talked about this, I think, kind of recently, but it's such an important point. Let's sort of walk through what was happening when you weren't putting all your focus on Prospector versus other businesses. Because like I have lots of conversations with guys who are inquiring about our coaching program, and they're like in another business field. And they're like, I think I'm about starting a plumbing company. And for a while, I'd be like, yeah, that's a great opportunity. And now I've sort of learned, like, no, you should just do what you're good at and focus on the one thing.
Yep.
And I think that had something to do with you selling the business as far as like trying to keep it.
True. Yep. It's like divided attention versus focused attention on one thing.
Yeah.
If you can focus your attention, it's going to get more of your attention and you're going to get more out of it.
Yeah.
So
sure. 100%.
So it's like when I only owned a Prospector and I was pushing forward on Prospector, the only thing I thought about all day, mostly all night, I'd wake up dreaming about it, right? Yeah. It's inevitable that you're going to be able to push it forward and grow it and improve it at a faster rate than if you're not thinking about it.
Sure.
So the second you introduce something else into that and you're thinking about two things, then you have two things that you're thinking about all the time and they're only getting half your attention.
Right.
And so if you can figure out what your best opportunity is, like long-term, what do you want? What do you enjoy? What's going to give you the most long-term benefit for you? It's going to be different for everyone. And it's going to evolve too. Like mine used to be, I just want to get out of the truck. I want to quit plumbing. And there was like, oh, I want to grow this to 1 million. And then it was, let's grow it to 1 million in profit. And then it was, let's get it to certain profit percentages. Let's optimize. And then we moved away and ran it remote. And now it's like, and then it was, we started our social media business and then the coaching business. And I guess over the last 2 years, I just learned a lot about what I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's like everything has kind of just aligned into this one thing. If I put my focus into it, then that's the thing that's going to bring me the most opportunity and the most joy.
Yeah.
And that's really, to me, that's what life is about.
Sure.
Not necessarily opportunity, but having fun.
Yeah, sure.
I want to have fun. And I want to do something that I think is fun and cool.
Yeah.
So why not do that one thing?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then why was now the time for you to sell Prospector?
Why now instead of later?
Yeah, or maybe earlier, or just...
So if I was to sell it earlier, it didn't have enough history. And
what do you mean history?
The business is only 4 years old.
Oh, sure.
And so they're going to look at last year's tax return.
Right.
And so year one, if you look at our tax return, it was, it was just me.
Oh, yeah, sure.
We made, I don't know, 80 grand cash in the bank, profit,
Sure.
100K, something like that. Year two, we did 2.8 million in sales, but we didn't make any money. Yeah. I was dumping everything back into the business.
Oh,
so
sure. Yeah.
So then year three and four, we made good money. And going into year 5, we were doing well. And so I had 2 years of history of the thing making really good money. Plus it's doing better now than ever.
Yeah. So you had it's a good
clear
solid case.
upward trend for the last 4 years, basically.
Gotcha. So now it's more attractive to the marketplace.
Yeah. And I can actually get enough money out of it to be worth my while. Right. Like if I were to sell it a year ago, I might have only gotten, 3 million for it.
Yeah.
But the business at that time was on track to do over $1 million a year in profit.
Gotcha.
And so I might as well hold on to it for another year, suck another 1 million out, and then the value of the business increases.
Yeah.
and I get another 2 million when I sell it. So I'm 3 million ahead, right? At that point.
Right.
So it just made sense. The business was at the point where if I wanted to keep expanding it, expansion in Fairbanks got slow because, we played the expansion game and then we played the optimization game.
Right.
And it's a small market. And so if we wanted to grow, we'd done really good expanding. We'd done really good optimizing. Growth was slower at this point.
Sure.
So if I wanted to get millions of dollars out, I needed to move and open up a second location. In Fairbanks, that's in Alaska, we need to go to Palmer, Wasilla, or Anchorage, which are 300 miles away.
Yeah.
So it's not a super simple.
It's like building a new company, essentially.
Like building a new company, right?
Yeah. In an Alaskan market with winter and snow and
which I could do. But, if I was to do that so Prospector made a little over $1 million a year, let's just say 1.2 million in profit. And for me to take that money and go invest it in another market, it was too risky to me. Because if something went wrong with one of the two, this one would be sucking cash. If something went wrong with the one in Fairbanks, then it's going to suck more cash out.
Yeah.
And you could dry up your cash really fast.
Yeah.
And so, and plus, the better, especially if I was going to try to put a manager in place in Anchorage and do it remotely.
Sure.
Right? That would have just sucked a lot of cash.
Tons of cash.
And so I thought, well, I could go back to Alaska, but I don't want to do that.
Right.
I like living in Florida.
Yeah.
So it just made logical sense. Well, let's just sell it and pull the money down here.
Yeah.
And then I have a safety net of money. I can create recurring income for myself and then start another business.
Yeah.
Down here.
Yeah. So then you can achieve the objective of focusing your attention on one thing.
Yep.
And then start up something where the opportunity is so much greater just because you're in the States.
Right.
And you're in Florida and it's just the market's better and different and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So now we're in Pensacola. It's 10 times the size of Fairbanks. So we've got 10 times the potential.
And that's just in Pensacola.
Just in Pensacola. And then we've got neighboring cities that are very close by to where I could open a location there and not have to move there.
Right.
And it wouldn't be that bad. Right. And then the business also, because it's in a bigger location, we have the potential to just grow in this location to where it creates enough revenue to then be able to grow in another location using that revenue, using the profits from that business without too much headache.
Right.
That was much harder in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Sure.
So I think it's a better market. I have way more knowledge now on how to do it, and I think it'll be fun, and it'll be right in my backyard.
Yeah, sure.
Where I don't have to do it remote, so it'll be easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's why.
Okay, and so when you're going to sell a business, like how does that work? Do you just like chuck it up on like the internet? You just throw your business like, hey, I'm selling a business, Craigslist.
Yep.
You want to come and buy it or something?
You can. Some people do that. You probably, you're not going to reach a very large demographic of people.
Yeah, the Craigslist business buyers.
And so you're probably not going to get a very qualified business buyer, right? A lot of guys try to sell to their employees. I had an idea of what Prospector was worth just through hearing people's numbers and stuff. And like none of my employees could afford it.
Yeah,
Number one.
Yeah, because they'd have to somehow have millions of dollars.
They'd have to have enough to go. They'd have to have access to investors.
Yeah, sure.
Or enough to go put a down payment on an SBA loan. Which if you're getting a $5 million SBA loan, I think you got to put 20% down. It's a big chunk of change.
Yeah.
That's $1 million.
Yeah.
Right. So none of my guys had enough money to buy it.
Yeah.
Right. So that wasn't really an option. And so what you do is you go find a business broker. So you contact a business broker. There's crappy business brokers and there's good business brokers. If you have a plumbing or heating or HVAC business, my business broker's name was Patrick Lang, Business Modification Group. Awesome dude. Super good broker.
Was he the only one that you got? Was he like your first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's super cool that you found him just
He got recommended to me.
Gotcha.
So like one of the best things you can do, go like if you don't know who to hire for something, go into the Facebook groups and be like, hey, what broker do you guys use?
Yeah.
And if you get like the same name 3 times, he's probably a pretty decent broker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patrick Lang was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like badass.
Yeah, you pretty much
Awesome.
just sung his praises the whole time. During the whole shebang.
Yeah. He was great to deal with, solved all my problems, walked me through the whole process, the whole 9 yards. So what happens is you call up your broker and you send him your P&Ls, your tax returns. He looks them over, your balance sheets. He looks them over and he tells you what he thinks he can get for your business.
What if you didn't have any of those things and you want to sell your business?
It's going to be really tough. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is why you have to keep accurate records.
Yeah, sure.
So I can't stress enough. And we'll get to this. There's a section when you're selling your business. It's called Q of E. It's quality of earnings, right? Where they go through all this stuff. And if it's a mess, quality of earnings is going to suck.
Sure.
Like big time. And it's going to raise a lot of red flags to the potential buyers of your business.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing all this stuff in this weird, shady ass way, what else are you doing?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, totally.
So super important to have solid financials. Keep your personal life and your business totally separate. You can pay yourself out of your business. You can do owner draws, but any personal expenses, just pay for them personally.
Yeah.
The tax, like a lot of people play these tiny tax games.
Yeah, sure.
Because they're worried about small amounts, like saving small amounts of money, when in reality, they should just worry about making money.
Yeah.
And the little bit of extra tax they pay, whatever, who cares? It's a teeny tiny amount compared to if you were to put that time and energy into just making more money, you'd be better off.
Or if you're like living in such a way that you need that tax savings to support your way of life, that would tell me that you should probably think about how you're living your life.
Correct.
Like I would say the goal is not to live your life at 100% budget cap. That seems like a really crappy way to do it, no matter how much money you're making.
Yeah. So live frugal and keep your stuff separate.
Yeah.
Run a good
clean.
business.
Yeah.
If it makes money, then that money can go to your personal account and then you can spend it.
Sure. Yeah.
But don't run a bunch of stuff through your business and make it all messy.
Yeah.
Keep it clean.
Yeah. Trying to like have zero tax liability at the end of the year or whatever.
You can do
thing
that.
You're trying to do.
You can do that, but do it separate.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. Keep the books clean. Have a bookkeeper that keeps your books clean.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you don't have a bookkeeper and you're listening to this,
go get one.
Go get a bookkeeper.
If you've billed any money whatsoever, go get a bookkeeper.
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't even billed any money for dude wash and we have a bookkeeper.
We got a bookkeeper. Go see who we're using, Becca Bursell, or you can go to
Bursell Bookkeeping.
If you Google Bursell Bookkeeping, I think it'll come up, but I think it's, I can't remember her.
Yeah.
I think it is bursellbookkeeping.com.
I think it is.
Yeah. If you need a bookkeeper, Google Bursell Bookkeeping. Burcell.
Yep.
Bookkeeping.
Yep.
And just hire them to do your books.
Yeah. Say, Jared sent me your way.
Yes. Say that.
Yes.
And she'll be more than happy to help you out. She wasn't taking on new clients for a long time, and I know she is now. So
yeah, cool.
Now's a good time. She does all the books for all of my companies.
Yeah. Now you have like 1,000 companies.
There's only 5. It's not that bad.
Yeah, 1,005. It's like the same.
Okay, so you call a broker. He gives you a value, and
after you send him your P&Ls,
after you send him the P&Ls, balance sheets, and tax returns, he will get a hold of you, and he'll say, "I think we can sell for this."
Gotcha.
And that's it.
And then
you say yay or nay.
Okay.
And he'll probably ask you, like, a lot of guys will ask you, "What's your number?" If I was to talk to a broker and he wanted to ask me what my number was, I would say, you present me with the information and I'll tell you if that's a good enough number.
Sure.
Because I don't know if the broker is shady or not. And if I tell him I just want to walk away with $500,000,
sure.
And he's like, "Cool, let's sell your $5 million business for $2 million just to get a quick sale."
Yeah, sure.
Because he makes money on that.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Then he can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and also if you've never sold a business before and you're not very familiar with the process, you don't know what your number is.
Yeah, a lot of guys.
You don't have that idea in your head. Like they'd probably present what you just did, where they say, well, sure, it would be nice to have this much, because in my head, that's how much I need to live this life I'm imagining.
Right.
When in reality, they could get like maybe more or whatever.
Hold on. That's why you should keep listening to this podcast, because I'm going to tell you what happens to all the money.
Yeah, sure.
At the end.
Yeah.
And I would ask your broker this as well. Okay, so how much of that do I get to keep?
Yeah. Yeah.
How much of that is actually like goes in my pocket at the end of the day?
Yeah, sure.
And then you need to understand. So he's going to give you a number and you're going to say, cool, how much, like, give me the breakdown on that. Like, what are your fees going to be? Their fees are going to be expensive.
Sure, of course.
I think it was like 4%. So I paid my broker $180,000 to do a $5 million deal. And you're going to need a lawyer. So you're going to have lawyer fees. You're going to need a good CPA. So you're going to have CPA fees. Like, there's going to be a cost to you to sell this thing.
Sure, yeah.
And it's going to take your time.
Yeah, how long did it take you?
It took us 6 months.
And I feel like that's kind of fast, personally.
6 months to close. Like, from the time we listed to the day we closed was about 6 months.
Yeah, I think that's very fast. Like, in my brain, I mean, I only know that because I've talked to like 5 people who are in the middle of selling their business, and they're usually in the 9 month to a year range.
Yeah.
And varying levels of competencies of everything, but still,
Yeah.
like 6 months seems like a pretty quick, like.
So I was really fast at getting them any information they needed.
Yeah.
And all my stuff was organized, so it was very easy to get them what they needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you could expect 6 months would be reasonable.
Yeah.
And then just make sure you're selling for enough. And, you know, I could see people selling and regretting it, like wondering if it was a good idea or not, especially if you have a really strong business. So the whole time through my sales process, I didn't care if the deal went through or not.
Sure.
So I kind of
Because you had a good business.
because I had a good business.
Yeah. Worst case scenario,
right?
you keep making $1 million per year.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then we sell it again next year.
Yeah.
And it's worth even more because it did better this year.
Yeah.
right?
So you're in a position of strength the whole time.
I was. Yes, I would say so. So then what's going to happen is he's going to list it. And that's what a broker's really good at. They're going to list it on all the websites.
Sure.
If they're decent, they're going to send out emails. They're going to send out postcards. Hey,
They might have some connects of people who are looking for these types of businesses.
A good broker typically is connected with all the PE firms. And you'll get interest from a lot of the big PE firms. So I talked to quite a few of the big PE firms. None of them wanted my business because it was in Alaska.
Yeah. So like we talked about in the last episode, run us through the weaknesses of being in like a small rural market, like I would classify.
Yeah. So in a small rural market with no market to expand to nearby, like a PE firm, they want to buy you and grow you.
Sure.
Or buy you and improve you. They want to grow your net profit numbers. So in order to grow net profit, they can either make you more efficient and make more money with the work you already have, or they can grow the business. So literally just double the workload and double the net profit.
Sure.
A lot of the times they're going to do both. Right. And that's what they want to do. They want to buy you, grow you, which increases the value of the business. And then they turn around and sell again. And that's their whole game. So they'll buy a bunch hold on to them for 12 years. They'll hold a portfolio. They'll increase the value of the portfolio, and then they'll sell the whole portfolio off. That's the game, right? So, and eventually I think what ends up happening is everybody gets bought up by one equity firm, and they kind of control the market. That's what happened to sunglasses.
Oh, yeah.
So I noticed, I don't have them in here, I got a pair of Oakleys for Christmas. And on the inside of the Oakleys, Oakley used to be its own brand.
Yep.
They're owned by Holbrook. You go look at what other sunglass companies Holbrook owns. They own the Sunglass Hut. They own Oakley.
Yeah, sure.
They own Ray-Bans. They own Smith. They own a lot of like optometric stores now. Like, did I say that right?
Yeah, close enough. Optometrist. Yeah.
Yeah, optometrist. Is that a word? That sounds really funny right now. And so that's what they did. They like bought one sunglass brand, and then the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. Once they bought up all the sunglass brands, and they were like, well, let's buy up the stores that sell the sunglasses.
Yeah, and let's buy up the huts that sell them. And then we should also buy the places that these things get sold in, which is optometrist places.
And then they start buying the manufacturers
Yeah, sure.
who
of course.
manufacture the sunglasses until they control the whole thing,
Yeah.
right? So that's the game they play.
Mhm.
It's what they do.
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with
Yeah.
the home service world,
Yeah.
how that's going to work. Because there's a few really large companies right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Hmm.
So he's going to list your business. He's going to say, hey, I got an interested buyer.
Mhm.
And you're going to hop on a Zoom call with them and they're going to ask you a bunch of questions. And typically takes about an hour. And they're either going to pass on the deal or they're going to send you an LOI.
How much is like a first impression worth in these scenarios? Like if you like don't know how to sign into Zoom or you don't know how to turn your camera on or like you look super scruffy, is that worth anything in these interactions?
It probably is. But I would say like if you got solid numbers
Yeah, sure.
and you can talk, if you can talk the talk about the numbers,
Yeah,
if you understand them,
Yeah, if you're competent about your
if
business.
you're competent about the numbers and what the numbers mean and what they say and how you run your business, then I don't think they're going to judge you I had a giant beard.
Yeah, but I mean,
know.
like you showed up on Zoom, you had a microphone, you have a background, like just because of the nature of your business and what we're doing.
Oh yeah, I looked way more professional in that sense than most of the guys that I was hopping on a call with.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's super important, but you're going to hop on these Zoom calls and you got to remember, like you're there to sell your business to an extent, right?
Yeah, sure.
But in reality, they're crunching the numbers.
Yeah, they're not going to
And
buy
they're
you
going-
based upon what you say.
And they're going, is there an opportunity here or is there not? And they're really just asking you a lot of operational details, right?
Yeah, because they need to know, like, so
that'll-
well, if you leave, does this thing go down the hole?
Well, not just that, but like, a lot of the improvements they want to make, they're going to have to change operations.
Sure.
And so if they look at your numbers, look at your books, ask you operational details, they got a really good idea of, okay, we're going to have to go in and do this, this, and this. And I think we can get this much more out of this business. So it would be a good buy if we bought it at this number that they're asking. Right?
Yeah.
So you're going to hop on quite a few calls. Eventually, somebody is going to give you an LOI. That stands for letter of intent. And it's basically going to spell out what they expect to buy your business for,
Okay, gotcha.
when they expect to be able to close by, and kind of the terms of the sale.
Like rough terms.
Rough terms. Yeah. Well, no, it's pretty good terms. So for mine, it was like $5 million. There was a seller note involved. And there was, we're going to close by this date and we're going to, it was contingent on an SBA loan and a few other things.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so they send it over. You look it over. You can ask questions with your broker, all that good stuff.
Did you read like every word of these documents?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And if I didn't understand it, I looked it up. I think, and that's why I learned so much.
Sure.
Because I took the time to read every single word and understand exactly what it was.
Yeah, you weren't just like, wow, this is a lot of legal language. I'll probably just sign this. It's probably good.
Yeah. And so you're going to get an LOI and there's going to be a lot of confusing language in there. Like one thing is there's two ways to sell a business. You can do an asset sale or a stock sale. And what that is if you have an asset sale, they are buying the assets out of the business. So if you have an LLC, they're going to create their own LLC and they're going to buy the assets out of your business and put them in their LLC. And that reduces liability on their end.
Gotcha.
Because your LLC still exists. So all the liability stays with your LLC. And for tax reasons for them, they typically like that better. If you do a stock sale, what they're doing is they're buying the actual business. They're buying all the liability and everything. So if you're a business that had a lot of contracts in place and they were going to assume those contracts, they have to do a stock sale so that they can assume the contracts.
What do you mean contract?
So for a construction business who was in the middle of 10 large construction projects, then you would want to do a stock sale.
Yeah, because
Right.
those contracts wouldn't transfer to the new LLC unless there was like a whole set of agreements.
They would have to redo the contracts if it was an asset sale.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
So, or like somebody who's in manufacturing and they have
Mm-hmm.
a contract with the government to manufacture for the next 6 years a certain amount of stuff, right? You would want to do.
What about like memberships?
No, memberships.
different.
No,
Gotcha.
because it's not really you're not really entering into a contract.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're just signing up for a membership.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that can transfer over.
Gotcha.
So you have asset stock sale. Typically, if they're buying your plumbing company, it's probably going to be an asset sale, which means they're buying assets, which means there's going to be an asset allocation on your stuff. And so when they buy your business, they buy what's called assets and they buy what's called goodwill, right? So the assets are like the hard assets in your company, the vehicles, the tools,
Yeah.
the equipment,
Sure.
like the stuff that is actually there. Okay. And the goodwill is like the name of the company reputation, basically like the idea of the company. Right?
Interesting. How do you put a value on goodwill?
You don't. You take the total price of the sale and you subtract out the assets,
Okay.
and then the
okay.
rest is goodwill.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so
Sure.
and that's negotiable.
Sure.
The assets are negotiable. And so when you're going through this process, well, let's not skip ahead because that's later on in the process. Basically, you get an LOI if you like the terms. Basically, you like the sale price.
Yeah.
You're going
sure.
to end with however much money you want to end with. Then you accept the terms, you sign the LOI, and you enter in due diligence. So due diligence, they usually put a time frame on due diligence. So they have X amount of days to get all the documents they need from you,
Yeah.
learn as much as possible about your business. You're probably going to have weekly Zoom calls with these people.
Because they're gonna have questions on the documents.
They're going to have lots of
getting
questions.
clarifications.
Yep.
How is it important for you to, when they ask for documents, to get those documents to them quickly?
The sooner you get them, the sooner they're going to be done with due diligence.
Sure. And then the sooner they're done with due diligence,
The
the
sooner
move on
you
to
can
the
close
next
on
part.
that sale.
Yeah, because
Yep.
your goal is to close out the sale at hopefully the price that you agreed on.
Yep.
And then get your money and then go live your life
Correct.
and not keep pushing this ball down the court.
Right. The more you push it down the court, like when you're trying to sell your business, you think about the business you're selling different, right?
Yeah, sure.
So part of like an LOI could be that you're not going to make any major changes.
So you just kind of have to pause.
So you're paused.
Yeah.
That's a hard spot to be in for a business because for me, I'm always changing stuff. We're
Yeah. You're
always trying to
thinking, you're
improve.
improving. Yeah.
And it's a moving target. And when you pause, it's really hard to keep your momentum going
Yeah.
when
Sure.
you're paused.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of tough to play the game of I'm selling plus I have a business. It can be tough. So you enter in due diligence. They're going to ask for a ton more paperwork. They're going to ask you to send them reports about your memberships, send them reports about, commercial versus residential and install versus service and all this stuff, right? And they're basically going to the bank. Well, after that, you're going to enter in what's
Real quick, did Service Titan make this easier for you?
way easier.
Yeah. If you didn't have Service Titan, like you had a
would've
different
been
CRM,
Impossible.
yeah, to get all this
It
stuff.
would have been so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that if I'm a company and I want to sell in the next couple of years and they don't have Service Titan, would you
Get on
recommend that I
Service
just
Titan.
get on Service Titan?
Yeah. And the reason is you're going to be able to get more for your business.
Interesting.
So if I didn't have all this stuff together, a buyer could have come to me, right, and offered me money, but because I didn't have the information available, it would have been a riskier transaction.
Sure, because they don't have all the data.
They don't have all the data.
They don't have the history of the
They
data.
would have offered me less money
Sure.
for the same business.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So if you want to maximize how much you get paid, have clean books, make as much profit as possible, and have clean data.
Yeah.
And then they can come in and they can see all the data in your business. It's very transparent. They know what they're buying and they're willing to give you a good dollar amount for it.
Did you ever have any things that you struggled to get to them during this process?
Nope.
Cool.
Not a single
So they'd
thing.
ask for a thing and you just be like, got it. And you went and found it and
in
emailed
like
them
10
off to 'em.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yep. I was
Man.
super fast. They're probably going to want to do a site visit.
Yeah.
They're going to want to meet you, the owner. They're going to want to see the physical location.
Sure.
They're going to want to see the business in action, make sure it's real.
What are they looking for here in this process?
I think it just makes the buyers feel better. And not everybody's going to want to do that.
Sure. Of course. There's going to be,
You know, like if a private equity firm comes in that's used to buying businesses, they're going to pull your data. They're going to go, yep, it's good. Here's your money. Let's go.
Yeah. If
And
you're
they
in a
might-
good market.
And you literally might close in like 30 days.
Yeah. Cause they're like, wow, if I buy you now, I can scale you right now. Cause I got this money coming
Right.
in from this other deal. Like chip, chop, chip. Good
Right.
enough.
And they don't have to deal with banks.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
Right. So when
Dealing with banks seems like it's
when you
a pain in
start
the butt.
dealing with a bank, so if your buyer is getting an SBA loan, banks have tons of questions,
So
tons of paperwork they need filled out.
did it end up you having to talk to those banks at all to give answers or anything?
No, it was always the buyer getting a request from the bank, passing it on to me. I would get the information
Yeah.
and send it over to him, and then he would send it to the bank.
Gotcha.
So you're going to go through due diligence. Part of due diligence is going to be quality of earnings, where they're going to hop on with an accountant. He's going to get access to. We just gave him access to my QuickBooks, so he can pull all the reports he wants.
Sure.
And they're going to go through and basically they're just looking at to make sure that what is on your P&L and on your tax returns is legitimate. So they're going through and they're crunching all the numbers.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay?
It seems like to me that they're just looking for any like red flags within the data or just within the general vibe of the deal, depending upon who they are, who's buying it. Like you said, if it's a PE firm, they probably have like they don't have to be as thorough depending on the market, but like
And this is typically a third party quality of earnings company they're hiring
yeah, sure. So it's not
to come
attached
in,
to anybody.
look at your business and give them the good, bad, and the ugly.
Gotcha.
The quality of earnings guy for my business said we had the cleanest books he'd ever seen.
Oh, nice.
Which was awesome.
That's awesome. Did that make you feel good?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. Huh.
Props to Becca.
Yeah. Whew. Dang.
So for us, all that process went pretty quick.
Did you tell Becca that, by the way? That's
I
what
did.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. You're going to go through that and then you're going to start getting it. Like once you get through quality of earnings, then it goes into, okay, they're going to need to start working with the bank.
Yeah.
And they're going to ask for all of the information that you've already given. You're going to give it all again. Just get used to it.
Yeah. Probably. Did you stay pretty organized through this whole process with what you sent and everything? And
Yeah, as best as I could.
yeah, sure.
It gets a little hard, a little messy, but it's doable.
Yeah.
So they're going through your business with a fine tooth comb. At that point, like once they look at all your stuff, they can re-offer.
Of course.
So they can adjust and send you a new LOI
Yeah.
based on the numbers they saw,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yep. Makes sense.
beware of that. That
Sure.
could happen. Now, you can refuse their offer, and you can also be like, hey, no, I think it should be this for this reason.
Yeah. Sure.
And you can get them to take it.
Yeah.
It's all negotiable. So don't forget that.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're going to
Don't
start.
forget that they're trying to buy your business.
They're trying to buy your business.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have power in this relationship.
Yep. So once the quality of earnings and the due diligence is done, they're like, okay, you are correct. Your business is doing what you said it was doing. Our LOI stands, or you're not quite doing what we thought you were doing. Here's what we're willing to buy you for. They could even completely back out of the deal at that point,
Sure.
right? There's no contract in place. It's just a intent to buy your business
Yeah.
if due diligence goes well. So at that point, if they want to continue to buy your business, you're going to start working on the contract. And they're going to start working on their bank stuff as well.
Is this like the final contract?
Yep.
They're working on the contract that you'll
Yep.
ultimately seal the deal.
Yep. So there's going to be a purchase agreement that happens. And so typically what happens is there's a purchase agreement and there's a few other agreements that go along with that. And this is when you're going to want to get a lawyer to look at your agreements, and you're going to want to get a CPA. And
Like a different CPA than the one that you have currently?
so my advice, and so I did this with my current lawyer, and it turned out okay. I did a ton of research. So I would get a 90-page contract, and I would read every single word
Holy moly.
and make sure I understood every little detail and how that applies to the sale and the taxes after the sale.
How did you like do this research? Did you talk to somebody?
Dude, YouTube, Google, talk to people.
I know
there's so much information out there.
I know that for me, and this is at a much lower level, but just like analyzing what contract, every contract is full of legal language.
Yes, it is.
And
It
I
can
have
be
found
very
that,
confusing.
yeah, and no matter what contract you sell, it's going to have a bunch of legal language in there. And you start to see repeating terms, right, that come up. But I just like take chunks of those and I copy them into ChatGPT and I say, what does this mean? And then it literally breaks it down for me bullet by bullet. I'm like, cool. What does this mean if this is the context I'm trying to understand this in?
Yeah.
Just as an example, like there's lots of tools. And then beyond that, you can call somebody and if you need to pay for their time. But and so in this whole process, how important was it that you understood what was happening?
For me, it was very important. So number one, I wanted, like, part of the reason I wanted to sell is I wanted the experience of selling.
Oh, interesting.
Because I wanted to learn what that process was and what it looked like and all the things that go into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was going through the process, I used the opportunity to learn as much as I could.
Yeah.
And just the knowledge that I learned in selling could potentially make me millions of dollars down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So you're looking at it from like a macro perspective, not just like, I need to sell this business so I can make money. You had like a broader reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You were just like doubling down on this experience.
Yeah. So let's take the time and just learn as much as I can.
Yeah.
And so I would hire, like I would hire an attorney, and I would think of your attorney as he should be looking at the contract and giving you advice on how to negotiate this contract that's going to work out best for you. But also he's going to be looking at it from just a legal standpoint.
Sure. Of
right?
course.
Make sure you don't get in any legal trouble or there's anything that's like too restrictive.
Right.
And so it's good to discuss with your attorney, like what your future plans are, what you would like to be able to say and not say after the sale.
Sure.
Right. I wanted to be able to say, hey, I sold my business for $5 million because I wanted to say it on social media.
Right.
And so we put that in the contract that I could say that. And so, and the first iteration of the contract we got, I wasn't allowed to say anything. So it's important to like think about what you want out of the sale, make sure the contract works for you and negotiate it. And if you're in a position like I was where I didn't care if it sold or not.
Yeah. And
at this point in time in the process, the buyer has invested a lot of time and money into this thing.
Yep.
And if he backs out of the deal, it costs him quite a bit. You, at that point, if you're in that situation like I was, you kind of have the upper hand.
Especially in your situation where you're still owning this company, it's still making you money.
It's still making me money.
So you're sitting there like, I'm making money right now. You guys can keep doing
The buyer
this.
is just bleeding money at this point.
Yeah.
And he wants to get this thing over. So he's incentivized to, I mean, obviously he doesn't want to sign a contract that's going to screw him over. But
Yeah, and that's not what we're not saying design a contract to screw him over.
No, and I wouldn't be unreasonable either. But if there's certain items that you really want in the contract, hold your ground and stick with it.
Yeah, and sometimes you might find elements in the contract that seem too one-sided where you look at it and you're like, I don't see how I benefit from this specific clause.
Yeah,
what is this doing in here?
Yeah, a lot of times they'll send you a contract that protects them,
Sure.
but not you at all.
Right.
And so a lot of what my lawyer did was like, hey, this protects them, but not you. Let's make this a two-way street.
Yeah.
So that was good to have a lawyer. You're going to go into negotiating this contract. Part of negotiating the contract is you're going to negotiate how much is goodwill and how much is assets.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. It's so funny to me that it makes sense, right? Assets. And then there's this extra number that is you're valuing it at that you can just probably put in whatever you want and call it goodwill.
Yeah. It's really total sale price minus assets equals goodwill.
Yeah.
Right. So you're really negotiating like how much of the sale is assets. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm
selling if I'm selling the owner a van that I bought for $60K and now it's only worth $40 and he's trying to say it's worth $60.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to him and be like, look, this van is only worth $40 today. I'm not giving you $60 for it.
Yeah, sure.
So you can negotiate assets up or down depending on, and it's important to know what you're going to do after the sale because when you like on the sale, you're gonna have to pay taxes on this money. Okay.
What?
The assets that you pay taxes on, that's gonna be taxed as ordinary income. And your CPA is gonna tell you you want as much goodwill as possible because the goodwill is gonna be taxed at capital gains.
Sure.
If you sell for $5 million, your ordinary income gets taxed at 37% this year.
Nice.
Capital gains is capped at 25.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's a 12% difference in tax.
That's a lot of percentages when you're dealing with big numbers.
It's a lot. It ends up being a lot of money, right? But you can depreciate against ordinary income and you can't depreciate against capital gains tax. There are other ways you can get rid of capital gains tax.
What's depreciate mean real quick?
So let's say I sold my business for $5 million and $1 million of that was assets.
Okay.
It's roughly where I'm at. So I'm going to get taxed 37% of $1 million. I'm going to have to pay in taxes. $370,000.
I knew that, believe it or not.
I could go buy real estate or open another business and invest in more equipment like depreciable assets like vehicles and things like that. And I can take the value of what I bought, depreciate it, and reduce my income. So I can reduce that $1 million income on the sale of the assets down. And the more I get that income reduced, the smaller the tax percentage is.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right?
Yep.
However, you cannot do that with capital gains.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So if you had a ton of depreciation already planned or a ton of things you can sink depreciation into, then you would want to negotiate that asset value up.
Oh, gotcha.
Right?
Interesting.
Which would, and this is the thing, the buyer of your business wants to negotiate the assets up because the more they spend on assets, the more they get to depreciate themselves.
Interesting. So there's certain circumstances where you and the buyer align in motive.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Typically, the buyer wants more assets, the seller wants less.
Yeah. And is that because of the
Typically.
capital gains?
Because of the capital
perspective?
gains perspective.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Dang, it's complex. Lots
It
of
is.
stuff to think about.
It is a little complex. So you're gonna want to negotiate that stuff. I negotiated them down probably another $350,000.
Wow.
And I stuck to my guns.
Yeah.
Again, because at that point I was fine if they still backed out of the deal and I kept the business.
Yeah.
And so it'll be funny if the owner listens to this and be like, that sucker.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's funny is I kept telling him that, and I don't know if he thought I was bluffing to make him think the business was valuable, but I was really just being 100% honest with him.
Yeah. From the third party perspective, as I was watching you and talking to you about this whole process, like your approach the whole time was, I'm trying to be, how do I want to put this? Really, my perception was that you're like, I'm just being open and honest about the advantages and the disadvantages of what you're doing and what I'm going to do in response, which makes sense. I'm not hiding anything, but it's so funny because you were just so open to discussing the advantages of both sides that then it seemed to me at least that they were like, I don't know if we can trust this guy.
Yeah, this seems fishy.
Yeah, this seems like, why would he try to get us to save money on these things? This doesn't make sense. And you're like, well, because it's stupid. And it
is. And ultimately, if you sell your business and a portion of it is a seller note, then you want to get that seller note. And so you don't want to screw the business owner over at the time of sale and then not be able to get the seller note.
Yeah.
Right?
What's a seller note?
So it'd be like, and this is something I learned, these guys can go buy businesses. So let's say you wanted to buy a $5 million business, but you didn't have $1 million.
Sure.
So you go to the bank and you negotiate on the LOI a $500,000 seller note. So basically, the business owner is loaning you $500K.
Interesting.
That you don't have to pay out, which means the SBA only has to provide $4.5 million in cash. The other $500,000 is a seller note. It's going to pay off.
So that means
equity, right?
I only have to put $500 down.
So you only have to put $500 down.
Which is a big freaking difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
So now you only have to come up with $500K.
Yeah.
So you get 4 investors willing to put in $100K plus yourself $100K, and you just bought a business for $100K down.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Sure. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I'm sure like on a smaller business, you could work that. Like I know there's zero down.
Yeah.
That people buy, doing the same thing, using seller notes.
But then that comes back to the point of like, if in the deal for some reason the business just sucked when you left, then you're probably not going to get your money.
No. Yeah.
And so you're just going to lose out on whatever that seller's note is.
Yep. The bank will get their money before you get your money.
Of course, 100%. Yeah, they'll win.
Oh yeah.
We all know that in these transactions, the banks are the ones who win.
Yep. So let's see. You negotiate all that stuff, and then
Is that an important process to like really be thorough with the negotiation of the contract?
so I think it is. Yes, I wouldn't just sign the contract and not understand what it means for you in the future.
Yeah.
And if you know what your future plans are, don't let it interfere with your future plans.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Let's negotiate the contract. Yeah.
Okay.
And probably the easiest, I think the easiest way is just to be open and honest with why you want this change in the contract so that they have a legitimate reason and understanding of what you want.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds stupid to say, but being open and honest through the whole process is fine.
Yeah.
I don't really see any disadvantage with that.
I think it's the best way to go all the time. No
Yeah,
matter what.
exactly. It's like if that's how you want to live your life, like in your house with your friends, it makes sense to then live that same way through your business.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, you're not being consistent with your own values, and it will screw you.
Yeah,
you won't win.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna break.
Like you can look at a contract, and so like lawyers are really good at this. They look at a contract and they're like, let's negotiate this down. We'll get them. Oh, we got them. They're stuck on this.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I think the better way to go about it is just to be like, hey, this is what I want. Here's why.
Yeah.
Are you cool with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How come? Oh, well, maybe we can rework it so that it works for both of us.
Yeah, sure. And like approach it like, hey, you want something, you want a desired outcome out of this buyer.
Yep.
I want a desired outcome out of this seller.
Let's work together.
Yes.
So that we both get our desired outcome.
Yeah. And then when he's like, if I'm buying from you, I'm like, Jared, I don't understand why this is in here. Then you say, oh, well, let me explain that to you. And I go, oh, okay, now I understand. Interesting. Well, this is how I see it from my perspective. What do you think of that?
Yep. So you're also going to run into, when you're dealing with a buyer, and so there's things I'm allowed to say and I'm not allowed to say, and I got to be careful not to say the things I'm not allowed to say. But when you're dealing with a buyer, there's going to be things that they don't understand. So I'm very diligent about understanding everything in the contract because I'm trying to learn to get better. Get more skill sets, right?
Yeah.
To be a better businessman in the future. And you got to remember you're dealing with somebody's coming to buy your business and they're relying on lawyers and CPAs and accountants and advisors to help them, right?
Yeah, and they don't really understand the business that they're buying to a certain extent, right?
Well, and they may or may not understand a lot of the portions of the contract either.
Sure.
And there may be some back and forth. Like we got stuck on a lot of back and forth about net working capital. Mm-hmm. What it really boiled down to was a misunderstanding of what net working capital was. And once we understood, once everybody was on the same page of what net working capital was, then the proposal to just get rid of it in the sale made sense to everybody.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things in there that I would just be aware of that the buyer you're dealing with is dealing with lawyers, CPAs, advisors.
Yeah.
And they're thinking like lawyers, CPAs, and advisors.
Yep.
And if you're on your end dealing with lawyers and CPAs and advisors, you got to remember they're thinking like lawyers, CPAs, and advisors. And it's your job as the business owner to understand their opinions, understand what's in the contract, and what you want out of the deal, and how you're going to structure this contract to best fit your needs. That's your responsibility.
Yeah, ultimately, you're responsible no matter what subcontractors you hire to advise you.
Correct.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just put all of that on my lawyer. Right?
Sure. It's not fair to your lawyer, and it's certainly not fair to you.
No. And you're likely going to get done with the deal and not be happy with it.
Sure.
Because
of course.
you didn't understand a certain aspect and how it was going to affect your future. and you got done with the sale and now it's this thing and you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what you don't want to do.
Yeah. See, like what I'm thinking right now is like, don't be like really quick to just push the deal through to get to the end outcome. Because what happens
if the deal takes a month longer, it takes a month longer.
Yeah.
But at least you got what you wanted out of it.
Yeah.
That's what I would shoot for.
Yeah. I have a really stupid example that I can share that maybe hopefully puts this point in. I just renegotiated my car insurance terms.
Oh, nice.
But what I didn't understand is that in order to get this low rate, I had to download a stupid app that's going to track how fast I drive, how many miles I go, because I was hasty to get to the savings. So I didn't do my due diligence to like think about it, like, what does this app mean? What does this actually mean for my life? And why is this in here? Can this not be in here?
Yeah.
And now I'm like, gosh, now I got to like, now I either just do the thing and say, screw it, I don't care, I'll just have the app, or I just don't have the app and see what happens, or I have to like go and call people and spend a bunch of time.
Yep.
But it could have been avoided if I would have just paused and said, cool, I can probably save money on my car insurance. Maybe.
Wait, there's an app?
Yeah. Like,
what's this app for?
can I call, what does this mean for me specifically? Like to actually look over those terms of service and actually try to understand what's happening. So that's just like a small example of if I would have just taken a little bit more time instead of wanted to push the deal through to get that end outcome I wanted so desperately, then I would have just saved myself a little annoyance right now.
Yep.
Now, if you just blow that up to scale at selling your business, those little mistakes could then turn to you being like, dang it, I would have had X amount of more dollars now.
Yep.
Or like I would have not had to be sucked into this thing now if I would have just took the time.
So one thing I learned during this whole process was asking questions is a very useful way to negotiate. Because you can usually get your point across by asking a question that gets them to think how you want them to think without sounding like you're negotiating. You're just asking a question.
Yeah, you're just being curious.
And it can be extremely, extremely, extremely useful. So keep that in mind. Like, extremely useful.
Yeah.
It was a big lesson that I learned. Like, you know, I can try and negotiate.
Sure, yeah. Come to the table as an adversary.
And be pushy, or I can just ask questions and then lead them down the path that I want them to go down. That also applies in your business as well. Like when you're talking to the people in your business, right? And you're looking for you want them to arrive at a certain point in their mind so that you can get a certain outcome, right? If you can lead them to that point through questioning, not telling, and they have to think through it themselves, arrive there and go, it's much more effective. So I learned that during this because there was some things that I had to come to the table with, and I didn't want to be a dick. And questions were a really good way to not be a dick. And then I took that and I applied it to some things in my plumbing business that I wanted to get across to people. And I was like, wow, this is a very useful way of communicating questions.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So like with my guys, one thing I did is I would pre-write the questions the night before or just beforehand.
Yep.
And I would word them as yes or no questions. And I gave them all a board. It was a piece of pink foam. And I printed out a big yes and a big no. And I taped the paper to each side. So one side said yes, one side said no. And I would hand out the boards to all my guys. And I would say, okay, we're going to play a game of yes or no. And you can make it fun, right?
Sure.
So like if we got a guy, his name is Little Jared. And you could say something like, is Little Jared gay? Or something, right?
Yeah.
Get them all like, yes. Right? But then start asking questions, yes or no questions.
Yeah.
And lead them from one question to the next question, to the next question.
Right.
To where they start to understand, get to the point that you wanted them to get at.
Yeah.
Right? Very useful.
Yeah.
It was cool to learn that lesson. Okay. So you get through due diligence, you get through the contract, You get through all the SBA documents. You've got everything negotiated. It's all laid out. And then you're basically waiting for, there's this, what they call the calm before the storm.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So you'll have this time of where you spent the last 6 months responding to emails as soon as possible.
Sure.
Hopping on Zoom calls and trying to figure out what this means in the contract and talking to your lawyer about this thing and talking to your broker about this thing. And all of a sudden, all that goes away and it's like, poof.
Sure.
And you're like, this is weird. It's a strange feeling. And it's for us, it was like a week before closing.
Yeah, where you're just like,
like
I guess
everything-
we're just hanging out. Everybody's just got to like, all the final numbers need to be crunched and papers need to be drafted and banks need to say we're good to go. And
everything was figured out.
yeah, there's
And it
no
was
more
just
talking needed.
Silence.
Everybody was satisfied with all the things.
And it was strange.
Yeah, because you've worked so hard and thought, especially in your context where you've been thinking so hard about this for months.
And I really wanted to, so at the same time, I really wanted to leave the business. I couldn't leave the business and not feel like it was operating at its best. The best I knew how to get it at.
Yeah, sure. Because you wanted to express the value of like, hey man, I'm selling you this thing, but it's awesome. I'm selling you something that's actually cool. Not like a junker that I pretended was cool.
Right. And it was super cool to be able to tell the new owner after we sold, like, this is the best this business has ever been.
Yeah. To honestly,
if you just keep doing it like this, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
That was really nice to be able to say.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot. Had I known there was problems and we didn't address them before we sold,
of course,
that would have really bothered me. Not to say there wasn't room for improvement still.
Of course. But
it was nice to know, like, the problems are solved. This is the best it's ever ran. And here's the next few steps that I think you should take. That was rad.
Yeah, that just feels good to be able to, I would say, just kind of do the right thing at the end of the day. And feel good about it.
Yeah, totally. It did. Felt great. So calm before the storm, and then you have closing day. So closing day is they're going to send you a ton of documents to sign. It's all the stuff you negotiated. I would read them over and make sure, at least go back and make sure like the key points that you want to negotiate are in there correctly.
Yeah, maybe the ones that you really, quote unquote, had to fight over.
Once you sign them, I would send them over to your legal team and say, hey, make sure these were good. They'll look them over again. If anything's off, you can ask to, hey, I signed this, but we got to fix it. And re-sign. That didn't happen to me. Everything looked good.
Cool.
You sign, they send out a wire transfer, and you get a big chunk of money in your bank account. Whatever you sold for, however that worked. They're going to, a few days before closing, probably, they're going to give you what's called a funds flow statement. And it's going to tell you exactly where all the money is going to go. So it's going to say, okay, you're getting this much, and here's how it's all allocated. Right?
Yeah, gotcha.
So in my instance, they had to pay off my vans.
Yeah.
And so some of the money was going to pay off vehicles.
Some of the money that out of that money that you sold for is going back to pay off the vehicles? Okay, gotcha.
Exactly, right.
Okay, cool. So then the fund sheet's like, all right, you're getting $5 million, and some of this is going here to vehicles. Some of this is, okay.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And so that's day before closing. Typically what happens is day of closing goes to the owner all the way up until 11:59. At midnight, it's the new owners. And so you sign contracts, you get money the next day. It is no longer yours.
Super weird.
Right? And so we closed on a Friday, and on Saturday, it was the new owner's business. So part of, once you sell, you can imagine you have, in the meantime, up until the point it sells, the new owner needs to have a way to pay employees and a way for employees to buy stuff.
Yeah, sure.
So he needs to get that stuff together. So for us, it was like he needed bank accounts and he needed credit cards. And day after closing, it was, okay, now all the accounts that are associated with the business, we need to get swapped over to the new owner.
Yeah, sure.
So we spent that Saturday swapping over tons of accounts. there's a few things like projects that were in progress during the time of sale that you need to figure out. You need to negotiate what you're going to do with those before you sell.
Yeah, sure.
How that's going to be handled.
Yeah. Is that final payment going to go to you or go towards the business or something like that?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
If the work is done and completed but not billed out,
Yeah.
who gets the money?
Yep.
If you got a down payment but you haven't done any work, who gets the money? If you
Yep.
got a down payment and you've done half the work, who gets the money?
Right.
And once you know that, then you can kind of avoid as much of that as possible.
Yeah.
Try to make a nice, as
Yeah,
clean of a break
yeah.
as possible.
Yeah.
Would be nice. Ours ended up pretty dang clean.
Cool.
We had a bunch of people who gave us down payments. So I ended up owing a bit of money in down payments, but
sure.
it wasn't money that was mine anyways.
Yeah, sure.
Right? He had to do the work.
Yeah.
So he should get the profit.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So it only made sense. Yeah, you're going to get a bunch of money. Then, so what we did is we sold on Friday. We spent Saturday transferring accounts over. Monday morning, we made the announcement to all the employees. Basically went in. It was Monday morning. We typically have a meeting Monday morning. New guy was there.
Have they met the new guy at this point?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. No idea who he was. They come walking in. We tried to make it just as chill as possible.
Yeah.
Like, hey, guys, we had one of our guys walked up first. He was early. And I just said, hey, man, I sold the business. Here's the new owner. And they just shook hands and said hello. And then a few more guys came in once everybody was there. I said, hey, guys, I sold the business. It's the same business. Nothing's changing. It's just work as normal, same paychecks, same pay scale, same terms. The only difference is somebody else owns it now. As of today, say hi to your new owner. Homeboy over there.
Dang. How'd the guys take it?
They were fine.
Cool.
It's like nobody cared.
They were like, cool, Jared.
You know, so then he got up and had a little speech. Not much, just like, hey, guys, my name is so-and-so. I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name. And
So-and-so works.
Yeah, so-and-so. And, you know, I'm committed to this business. I'm not changing anything. I've looked at the numbers of this business. It's a great business. I appreciate all of you guys here. I'm 100% here for you. And I want to continue this thing forward. And then he handed out new credit cards. I collected the old credit cards. And then our GM said a few words of like, okay, guys, let's get to work. Basically.
What y'all doing just sitting here not making money?
There were a few questions, right?
Yeah, sure.
So like one of the guys wanted to know if it was like a corporate business or if it was a single guy who bought us. And that's really about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it went off well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nobody freaked out.
Yeah, cool.
Nobody quit. One of our CSRs had a little bit of a
moment.
A moment, but not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, right, now the employees know.
Yep.
I spent I think I stayed there through Thursday, just making sure everything was swapped over.
Yeah, all the accounts again. Make sure you didn't
Making
forget
sure
anything.
that the new owner had a grasp on everything. And then part of our agreement is we have like a consulting agreement moving forward.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's an agreement moving forward and yeah.
Oh, cool.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
It's not too terrible.
No.
So when now you're sitting there with a bunch of money in your bank account, right?
Then you just go on vacations, right?
Just tons of vacations.
Just like spy that
Just
Bugatti or two Bugattis and then be done.
Yep.
And have $0.
Yep.
But you'd have two Bugattis.
Yep. And so you got to figure out what you're going to do with that money, number one. And probably step one of that is understanding how much you're going to have to pay in, ordinary income taxes and capital gains taxes. Yeah. So I would get a hold of a CPA and have them crunch those numbers for you. Hey, here's what your tax burden is looking like. Yeah. Really, the best thing to do would be to hire a firm as you're selling your business to walk you through the contract and run those numbers as you negotiate your contract.
Sure. Yeah. So that,
So that, and come up with a plan of what you're going to do afterwards.
Yeah. So you have stuff to work on.
So that, well, just so that you negotiate your contract in a way that is best set up for what your plan is afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Instead of trying to play catch up and go, okay, now I got to make a plan that works with the contract that I already signed.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So you are going to get a big old chunk of money. If you have a seller note, you're going to get that big chunk of money less the seller note. If you have vehicles you got to get paid off, or any debts or anything, all that stuff is going to get paid off. For me, like we closed on a Friday and I still had to make the next Friday's payroll.
Yeah.
I still had to pay all of the employees' benefits up until the Friday that we closed.
Yep.
So it's not like cash was done coming out of my bank account.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I still had cash going out of my bank account a little bit. And then you can plan on paying a bunch of money in taxes.
Yeah.
And figuring out what games you're going to play to avoid taxes.
Yep.
If you want to play those games.
Yeah.
Or just pay the taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can learn a lot.
Yeah. From like, again, the outside perspective, the biggest things that I learned just watching you is that it really made me appreciate how much you actually understood how your business works to the point that no matter who you hired and the level of expertise they had and schooling they had, be them accountants, lawyers, whomever, you were like, yeah, I don't think that what you're saying makes any sense.
Well, you really need to watch out for that because you'll get accountants that don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, it's not like any fault of their own.
No.
It's just, you know your business and that's your job as a business owner.
It is.
And so like, again, watching you in this perspective, like I was very impressed with just the confidence at which you could be like, nah, my business runs this way. And so that doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
And I can absolutely prove this point in any way that they ask.
Yep.
And that like, so when I would tell people on like, you know, the triage calls that I take for people to sign up to our coaching program, I'd be like, dude, like the advantage that we have is Jared really understands like how his business functions at a masterful level that I have never encountered with any. Maybe my last boss probably had a similar understanding of his business. But like, I would say the biggest takeaway for anybody listening is like, the more you understand your business, the better out you will be in any of these negotiations.
That's your whole job.
Yeah, your whole job is just really understanding the thing top to bottom.
Through.
So that you can explain it to anybody at any level. If they want to know your financial levels, you can explain it to them. If they want to know your marketing perspective, you can explain it to them. They want to know your operational, like your CRM perspective, your dispatch flow, you can explain it to them. Because like if you can do that, then when you come to a negotiating table, you're so much better equipped to actually get the result that you want. Because you're not just hoping that homeboy has good answers. So that was a cool thing that I observed. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take that one. That's a good one.
So here's what's crazy. So I sold a few weeks ago, and taxes aren't due until October. So I don't have to pay taxes on this money until October 2025.
Gotcha.
So let's just say I end with, I think I ended with if you include the cash that I already had in the business, right? Cash in the bank accounts, that's probably the easiest number for me to come up with because I actually saw it with my own two eyes. I ended with $4.8 million cash in the company account. So what I immediately did as soon as I could, took a little bit.
Because the money has to get transferred through the air
So
to wherever you want it.
here's a good lesson learned, right? My business was in Alaska. I had Alaska bank accounts at a global federal credit union sitting there. And they only have locations in like Seattle, Ohio. A few locations, right? And now I'm down in Florida and I don't have that bank down here. So I leave Alaska and there's $4.8 million in the account. And I call to transfer it to a new account with a bank down in Florida, one that I can actually use because I'm here.
You can go to the bank yourself.
They won't transfer that money over the phone. I have to physically be there in person to be able to do a wire transfer of that size. And so it took me, so I ended up having to go write a check. So I left some money in there for just in case stuff. And I still needed to pay my broker fees, and I had a few other things I had to pay. So I ended up writing a check and taking it into the bank for a little over $4.3 million.
Like a personal check, like a small square, like wrinkly with your watermark on it.
My Prospector Plumbing checkbook.
Yeah.
And
scribbled in pen and your handwriting.
Yeah, it's the only way I could think of to get the money transferred without having to actually fly to a physical location.
Yeah.
And so I went in and I went to deposit the check, and they were like, I don't know what to do with this.
Guys, I just want to just paint the picture for you properly, where Jared walks in like his shorts that look like swim trunks.
Yep.
Like with a scraggly beard.
Yep.
And be like, hey, can I deposit this?
Yep.
And the teller like, sure. Oh. And like in my mind, it's like she's thinking
into an
like,
account that I just opened on the internet moments earlier.
Yeah, she's literally like, "Oh my gosh, this is a criminal. I'm about to be on the news. Like this is a Florida thing. Like, whose money is this?"
To the bank's credit, they didn't do that.
Yeah, they were
extremely
professional.
Helpful.
Yeah,
they helped us get it all figured out. But it was on. It took 10 days. It was on a 10-day hold.
Yeah.
So I watched the money disappear from one account.
You had $23 in the account, like a boss.
No, in my account down here, it was down to, I think I funded it with like $250.
Mm-hmm.
But then I opened up a bunch of business accounts and funded all of the business accounts from that account. It was, my personal account down here was down to $13.
So funny.
Yeah. Until today.
Man.
Finally, the hold got off and I got my money.
Yeah.
But here's what's crazy. So, I don't have to pay the taxes for about 16 months before taxes are due, right? On the money that I made.
Mm-hmm.
So I've put that money in high yield savings accounts. So I get 5.2% interest.
And those are at the bank that you're banking with?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's a different bank.
Okay, gotcha.
Online. There's tons of them.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And you can link them with your bank account that you have with your bank, and you can transfer money in between. You can, if it's a large amount, you got to wire it, go to your bank personally and wire it in. Which that's the lesson I learned. But otherwise, I think you can transfer like $100,000 a day up to $1 million a month between the two accounts with no fees.
Oh, cool.
And no limits. So what I did is I paid off all of my debts. So I'm completely debt free right now. And I bought a new house, which means I have 3 rental properties that bring me, so the property in Fairbanks brings in $2,000. My property down here brings in $1,350. I'm going to move into my new house and I'm going to rent my old house out probably for $3,000. So I've got, what is that? 5, 6, we'll call it $6,350 in recurring revenue from my rental properties. And then all that money that I put in that account, in that high yield savings account, it's making me currently, after I paid everything off, $3,000 a week.
Wow,
just sitting there.
That's so stupid.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So
you're allowing people to access your money to go make investments, and therefore you get money.
Yeah, so I'm making like $20,000 a month right now.
Just chilling.
Just recurring revenue doing nothing.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Meanwhile, weird, you started 5 businesses.
Started 5 businesses, yeah. Bought a truck.
Yep.
Bought that truck today.
Yep, bought a fancy truck.
Bought a Suzu box truck.
Put a bunch of fancy pressure washing equipment in it.
Yep.
That we don't know how to use.
Yep.
It's going to be rad.
It's going to be awesome.
Oh, I'm super stoked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. Now you know all the ins and outs about selling a business. It really isn't that difficult. Like the first time is going to be a lot of work understanding.
Yeah, of course.
But I could go do it again.
Yeah.
And it would be a 16th of the work.
Sure, because you just understand even just the organizational things that you learned about. Yes. Oh, this is what they're going to want. This is how for me to best to keep myself organized along the process.
Yep.
Those things save so much time.
I also learned how, if I was a buyer, how I would want to approach it, having been in the seller's seat.
Yeah, sure.
And what kind of business I would go look for and why.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. It was a good experience.
Yeah.
All in all. And it ended well.
Yeah.
I think I'll be doing okay.
Yeah. Maybe. We'll see. You're getting a little ruckusy with your spending, just saying.
So today, I have been in contact with the CPA because there's this thing called opportunity zone investments that I wanted to learn about. Every city most cities in the U.S. have what's called an opportunity zone.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump put these in place.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go invest
Did you
in
hear
these.
he almost got shot?
Did he?
Yeah.
Weird.
Almost. I don't know if he did. I don't know if it's true. It's hard to tell now.
Wiggity whack tack, dude. It was probably Kamala. I mean,
Who? Is that crazy lady? Huh.
dude.
She's been hitting me with a lot of paid ads recently. I don't know what for. I keep skipping them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for her campaign.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
The
Are you a white guy for Kamala? That's a thing.
Is
You
it
can be,
really?
Yeah, you can be a white guy for Kamala. You're supposed to be sort of sad that you're white and cry a little bit on a Zoom call.
dude, so silly.
Come on.
All this stuff is so silly.
makes-
That's why I wanted to switch t-shirt brands.
Yeah, because Vans is getting a little woke.
Vans is like hecka woke,
I
dude.
know.
And it's like
Everybody is.
I feel like the only vote. So I have two things. Like number one, so I used to be a big, like, if you don't understand what you're voting for, don't go vote.
Yeah,
And I still think that way.
sure.
But then I kind of like shifted over to, we're going to get political here, but then I shifted over
Okay, we're
to,
already so far in,
then we'll talk about opportunity zones after this.
Got
A
it.
way to get rid of your capital gains tax. So then I kind of shifted to like, dude, does my vote even matter?
Yeah, true.
Like, is the whole thing rigged anyways?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it? I can't definitively say no, and I can't definitively say yes.
Depends on who you listen to.
Depends on who you ask and what you're looking at. But it's
The chances, I would say the chances are probably pretty good it's rigged. And I also, that's such a broad term because
I'm not going to say that, but it sure seems suspicious that the second they didn't think Biden, it's like Biden pulled out once the gap got so big that
of course.
that they were like, there's no way we can rig that. The gap's too big. Nobody's going to believe it.
Yeah.
That seems suspicious to me. But
Yeah, and also like rigged is like there's levels of rigged because like you could say that the propaganda is rigged and that would be a true statement.
oh yeah,
But then you
definitely.
could scale it all the way up to like the legit vote counting is rigged. That's a different level of rigged that we're talking about.
The narrative on mainstream media is definitely rigged. Like
Yeah,
if
I
you,
mean it's just
like,
normal propaganda. Like,
Yes.
it shouldn't be surprising. It's just
No.
like, well, yeah. It's
But-
just kind of like I guess it's surprising because we're Americans and we think that stuff shouldn't happen here.
yeah.
But in reality, it's like
It
been
does.
happening forever.
Oh, yeah.
And we're just finally to the point where we're like, wait a second, this happens in our country? Like, yes,
'Kay.
we are a country where
So
people do weird stuff.
that said, right?
Mhm.
If so, I went to like, okay, does my vote even matter?
Yeah.
But now I'm of the opinion that my vote matters more than ever because
Try to vote twice. That's what I do.
if the gap was that big,
Yeah.
if the gap gets so big that it's obvious they faked it or rigged it,
Sure.
then that's when your vote matters the most because we should all be going out and making that gap as large as we possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah. So it can't be, it's obvious if it is rigged beyond a shadow of
Yes.
a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. But the other vote that you have is with your dollar.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And I've always felt convicted about this. And it's worse. The more money I get, the worse it gets because I have
Yeah.
the resources to be able to vote with my dollar in certain ways.
Yeah, sure.
So I feel obligated to do so. And when I'm buying Vans t-shirts and Vans hats and Vans shoes, and I'm going to their website and I'm seeing all the woke BS on there, it's like, I really should be using my dollar to support companies who support
Yeah.
the things that I believe in.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one.
It's
That's
super tough because, and I think that we should always think of that in particular, not as you're either all in or all out. Because the reality is it's so hard that the best thing to do, I would say, is just sort of start to work your way through that hierarchy of the things that you buy so that you can eventually get to a point where you're as reasonably out as you can stand to be.
Yep.
Because like at some point it's like, I can't make my own clothes, man. Like, because if you think about it, like all this equipment that we're doing this on is probably benefiting from a conflict
It
in
would be
slave
impossible.
labor somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like,
It would be
We're-
impossible. Like we can't.
no, we
There's only a few podcast mics we can use.
yeah, and like my iPhone is a benefit of like terrible practices in the world. And
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Apple.
yeah, I should
But
probably so it's like
If there's so like
kind of sucks that you have to like think about it. But
it's lame,
Yeah.
but I mean I've outsourced all my food. As much of my food comes from a farm
yeah,
as possible.
yeah, we can
And-
only do the best we can.
No, that's true. Yeah. So, but I don't see like sure the creator of this mic going out and being all woke all over the internet.
No, I just haven't seen
However,
it yet.
I saw a Vans ad the other day that I was like, that's freaking disgusting.
You're like, come on, guys.
Yeah. Like, why? Why did you have to do that? Why do you got to go down that road?
Why you got to lose my business?
Why do you got to like spend millions of dollars on all that stuff?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a total side note.
Yeah.
I learned about what's called opportunity zone funds today. You can defer your capital gains tax out if you invest that money into an opportunity zone. So there, and you can invest in somebody else's fund, or you can create your own fund. And so what I've got going on is I just created a bunch of different businesses. So we have the pressure washing company. It's called Dude Wash that we created, which is going to need trucks that we now know cost us $140,000. I had created a plumbing business called Wahoo Plumbing that is going to need vans. They're going to cost a bunch of money. And I created a leasing company. So that leasing company is going to purchase those vans and those pressure washing trucks and lease them out to the pressure washing company and the plumbing company.
Right.
So what's going to happen is we'll just use the pressure washing company. Pressure washing company is going to go do work, generate income. It's going to pay the leasing company $2,500 a month for this vehicle.
Yep.
Which is going to be expense to the pressure washing company. So don't have to pay taxes on that $2,500. The leasing company is then going to get $2,500, right? But then it's going to depreciate that vehicle and not pay tax on that $2,500 again. So you can avoid taxes twice on that money. And so anytime I can do that and kind of streamline that process, seems cool. So I also started a property holding company that just to hold all my rental properties that I have to keep it all clean on my books. But part of this opportunity fund that I was thinking, you can start an LLC, you take your capital gains, you put it in that LLC. That LLC then, this is my thinking, can go buy some property in one of those zones and opportunity zone, that's what it's called, and build a row of office/shop space.
Yeah.
So like an 8-bay or 10-bay unit, right, of shops. I won't pay my capital gains on that. It'll get deferred out.
Right.
I'll create rental income in doing so. So I'll take money that I was going to give to the government. I'll build a thing that creates income, another asset. And then I can rent those shop bays out to the pressure washing company and the plumbing company.
Right.
So now plumbing company and pressure wash company are going to generate income. They're going to pay it to the leasing company or the property company that owns that property. And then that's going to be a tax deduction for them. They're not going to pay taxes on that money because it's an expense. It's going to flow into the property company. We're going to depreciate that real estate again. Believe this is how this works. And I'm not totally certain. I'm still figuring all this stuff out. And we're not going to pay tax on it again a second time. Which would be awesome.
It's kind of interesting, like the incentive structures that the government puts in, because if you use them all, it actually sort of does what they want you to do, which is to reinvest in your community.
Right.
It's just kind of funny how there's such a lengthy way to get around to that final reinvestment into the community.
It was so much easier before Biden.
Like
we used to be able to appreciate 100% of our vehicle purchases the first year. This year it's 60%. It was a terrible year to sell a business.
Sure, of course,
Should have waited till next year. It probably would have been better, I bet you. But
it is what it is. Still came out okay.
I still would have had to wait a year, so there's lost opportunity as well.
Oh, there wouldn't be the power washing company. There wouldn't be these other things.
True.
So I think it worked out pretty good so far.
So far, so good. Okay. If you haven't downloaded our playbook yet, go grab it. Go to www.wealthyplumber.com/playbook. If you're listening on YouTube, there's a link in the description. It's completely free. It's got everything, well, not everything, but a lot of the stuff that I've learned over the last 4 years growing and scaling my plumbing business and selling it for $5 million that you can get in here absolutely for free. So you'd be dumb to not go grab it.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks, dude.
Yep. See you, man.
See ya.